get your message to me. Oh, you know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on my feet. You know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on your feet.
Good evening, everyone, and it's Thursday, and a very, very quick turnaround, but we are back. Away days is back, and there's no better way to bask in our glory after a fantastic win than talking about the next fixture in which we hope for another 3 points. And it's an absolute pleasure to have Richie with me tonight. It's going to confuse me. This I know it is. The two Richies. But Richie, how you doing, fella?
I'm all right, mate. You?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. And look, we'll get into it very, very quickly before we get our guest on. Is that you were there Tuesday night, and before we went on there, you were talking about the atmosphere and just being in the stadium for that win. Look, tell us how good was it being there and seeing the way that we played and the result all come together.
Do you know what? It started a little bit disappointing for us because the War Flags did the Leeds End as well. And then, of course, they had a bigger version of my flag, literally the whole of the gallery get after us. And I was desperate to record it, but my seat was right behind one of the big flags in the Leases, so I couldn't record it. So I was a little bit good on that one. But I tell you what, the atmosphere in it's James, I've never known like it, especially not like the last 15 years or so. I know we said it a few times this season that the atmosphere it's starting to get like it was with the Entertainers. That's the best I've seen it in a long, long time. It was just electric. Kieran Trippier's come out today as well, saying he thought the atmosphere at Atletico Madrid Stadium was fantastic. He said I'm not just saying it, but I've never experienced anything like Tuesday night. So do you know what I mean? It was hopefully. That's nowhere near what it's going to be like on Sunday, though. So,
well, you know what, you've nailed that because look, I think we're all hoping for the same result and the same performance again. But look, we kind of feel like we're getting used to it now with the new owners. But the atmospheres just seem to be getting better and better at St James's Park. And the one thing, obviously, watching it on the TV that they talked about is teams don't want to come to St James's Park because they know it's going to be a tough game. The players, as they showed on Tuesday, won't give you an inch. They will be on you like a flash. But if you can add to that a fantastic atmosphere as well, it becomes a cauldron. And when it's a cauldron, teams do not like that type of pressure coming to St James's.
Do you know what, Pete? It felt like it did in the old days when St James's used to be a fortress.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like the other night. It felt like anybody could have turned up on Tuesday night and then they got exactly the same result against them. Even it wouldn't have surprised even if a big six had come to us on Tuesday and it would have been exactly the same result. We were just immense. Some of the performances as well by some of the players, which I know we'll probably go into in a bit more depth tomorrow night on Mag before while we preview on tomorrow as well. But say some of the performances were just sublime, really were.
Definitely, mate. And you know what? It's nice to see that other teams around us weren't picking up too many points, still out the relegation zone. And, for me, what's been the big talk is that everyone's now talking about, looking up rather than looking down. With that type of performance, we've kind of set the precedent in that that's what we need to be looking for every week now. And look, that brings us nicely on to the next game coming up, because we host Aston Villa a kind of high-flying Aston Villa at the moment, having a good season under their new manager, but we'll get into that in a second. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back our guest. And as always, if you watch Away Days, you know that there's no better way to discuss the upcoming game without having an opposition view. So I'm going to welcome in Rich Sutherland, who hosts the Aston Villa pod. And he was on earlier on in the season, so it's his second appearance for us. So let's get him in. How are you, Rich?
Evening, lads. Evening,
Leave
lads.
it, Rich. All right, mate.
Yeah, I'm very well. Very well.
Good
I
man.
am, or was really looking forward to the game on Sunday. Now I'm a little bit more apprehensive about it, but yeah, I'm not too bad.
Good stuff. I hate to kind of like make it worse for you, but I'm glad you're a little bit apprehensive, and I hope that your players are as well, because look, we need all the help we can get. We want to stay in this league this season. But look, it's a pleasure to have you on. It's great to have you back on the show. It was really, really good to chat to you last time. And we're in a different moment now. Both teams. From where we were kind of early on in the season. Last time we spoke, sort of Villa, weren't really firing on all cylinders. We certainly weren't. And we had a new owner, old owners, old manager. So it's all changed for everybody. But look, just how would you assess your season right now at this point, just past the halfway stage for Aston Villa?
Yeah, it's been a crazy one, like you just said there. I mean, last time I was on, I think it was second game of the season we played you guys. So we just come off the back of a bit of a humbling off Watford after a sort of a bit of a crazy pre-season for Villa. Injury and COVID hit pre-season, and then it was a funny game. Like we were speaking and you guys were still in a pretty depressive state with Steve Bruce still in charge, and the game was pretty much exactly as we said it was going to be. Villa won 2-0 without really having to play very well, but that was kind of after that was kind of how Villa went for the rest of the season under Dean Smith. It was like one or two decent performances. We had a great win against Man United away, but there was something not quite right with the club. And obviously we lost Jack Grealish in the pre-season, and it kind of felt like it was the end of an era, so to speak, without being too cheesy. Dean Smith wasn't quite the same man without Grealish, and we needed change. And I was kind of calling for Steven Gerrard last season. I was like over the moon when he came in, because I just felt like the players needed someone who had that ruthless streak about him and was just different with the players, like had that winning mentality. And I just felt that Dean Smith was possibly a little bit too nice without being disrespectful to him. He did a great job. But in terms of like Gerrard coming in, he's been like a breath of fresh air. The reaction to from the players has generally been great. I mean, we've probably had one poor performance this season, which was against Brentford under Gerrard, sorry. And obviously, you look at the quality of player that he's been able to bring in. I mean, I still have to pinch myself that Philip Coutinho is playing for us. It's just crazy. Like when you see what he did last night, and he didn't have too many touches of the ball, to be honest, but you see what he can do and what he does. It's just, we're talking about one of the best players, who could be one of the best players in the Premier League. Like, it's just unbelievable. So, yeah, what the quality of type of player that he can bring, what he expects from the players is just a different level. And I hope for a better second half to the season, because it's just been like so stop-start. We look like we're doing something. We look like we're on a great run. Then we have a bad result, or we have games called off. And I'm just hoping that we can get on a good run of games at the moment.
Yeah, I have to agree. Look, I know me and Rich were both sort of watching the game last night, the Villa Leeds game, and it is just it's for an outsider looking in, it's surreal to see the likes of Coutinho and Luka Dean playing for Villa and strutting their stuff. And the goal from Coutinho was fantastic. Only, in my opinion, only him on the pitch would score that type of goal. He's just got sort of ability, and it's clearly made you guys a real sort of potent attacking force, and we could see that for the fact that he scored 3 goals. But it's an interesting one. Villa have kind of gone from strength to strength under Steven Gerrard. But just about Steven Gerrard, because obviously he did come in, and you've talked about him a little bit already. What have been as someone that goes on the terraces, I know you go to watch a lot of games, what is the biggest difference standing on the terraces, watching your new Aston Villa under Gerrard? What is the big difference between Dean Smith and Gerrard?
Yeah,
you're seeing right now?
It's a good question, really, because like you say, I mean, Dean Smith did a fantastic job, and it wasn't as if Dean Smith, Steven Gerrard, has gone into a sinking ship, or obviously we went on a 5-game losing run, which eventually lost Smith his job, but it wasn't as if he was going into a crisis club, like say, with all due respect, Eddie Howe's went in with you guys, and Frank Lampard's kind of gone in with Everton. He had a decent base to build from. I guess what I would say is we were always really wide open in midfield, and immediately he came in and he tightened up that midfield area. Like the players are a lot tighter in. Like he's the way he plays is, we had really wide wing players, wingmen, and then the midfield were quite wide as well, and he's tightened that up because he likes his fullbacks to bomb on, and that seems to have suited our players a little bit more. So that's one area. And then I just think one of his comments to Tyrone Mings spoke volumes when he said he's the captain of the club for the time being. And I think just that, like, it reminds me of a little bit of a Brian Clough type situation where the players don't quite know where they sit with him, and they don't quite know whether he likes them, loves them, doesn't like them, and they're trying to impress, and I think that's the kind of aura and the presence that he's kind of brought to the club. And I think it's more like the intangibles that he's changed, as opposed to like the actual play on the pitch. Other than, as I say, we see him a lot tighter, and he likes his fullbacks to bomb on, and the front three are much more close together rather than far apart, because you see Buendia and Coutinho playing together, that's like 2 number 10s, whereas we used to have a real wide right winger and a really wide left winger under Dean Smith.
Yeah, I would have to agree, and it's that I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's that ruthlessness of Steven Gerrard, because he's in that position right now where he's, he's a winner. He was a winner as a player, and you can tell even at Rangers he's a winner as a manager, and he's not afraid to tell people when he feels that they're not good enough or not, or he's still kind of seeing whether they are good enough. And I think Tyrone Mings is a good sort of case in point, because I think with Tyrone Mings, he's had some good moments for you guys at Villa, but he's also had some really down and bad moments. He makes some bad decisions at times, and I think that just kind of typifies Steven Gerrard, is that he's not prepared to take second best, and that's why you guys are performing at the way in which you are. But that kind of segues me nicely actually into some of the players, really, and we'll talk about Tyrone Mings first. So Tyrone Mings at this point in time is the captain of Aston Villa. Obviously, he's playing for England as well. How are you assessing him at the moment? Like you mentioned that Gerrard said he's going to be captain for the time being. That, like you said, and you're absolutely right, speaks volumes. But what are your assessments of Tyrone Mings as a centre back?
He's a player who divides opinion. I mean, as a man and as a leader and as a captain, he's absolutely fantastic. He's very, very well spoken. He's very well principled. He's a real sort of throwback to what in the media or what fans say we don't have enough of in the game. He's someone who will sort of stand up, and he will have a go at people, and he will sort of, bollock people on the pitch, which is what us as fans have cried out for all the time. We say there's not enough characters in the game. However, is he 28 now? So in terms of any any more improvement, you're probably not going to get too much out of him. So he is what he is. He's a 100% man. He's a 100% defender. You know, which I don't mind. If he makes a mistake, he makes a mistake.
Yeah.
If he clears it, he clears it. He's a 100% man. That's what he is. The problem is a lot of his mistakes tend to lead to goals. That's the problem. Like last night, for example, summed him up perfectly. You know, he rose up brilliantly for a header in the first half, nearly scored. But then at the other end, he loses the ball and they score. You know, in the second half for their equaliser, he cleared the ball off the line from the first header and then headed it over the bar when it was all on for them to score. But then the next corner, he messes up his clearance and they do score. So it's a really difficult one with Tyrone Mings, because when he's really on his game, he's phenomenal and he's like a magnet to the ball and he heads and clears everything. But the problem is he's always going to make the odd mistake, and invariably it leads to a goal, and that's what frustrates fans.
No, it's I think that assessment, it kind of aligns with myself as well. And Richie, I'll get your thoughts as well on this. Just talking Tyrone Mings. I mean, you know, he does divide opinion within any fan base, let alone Aston Villa. What are your kind of thoughts on Tyrone Mings as a centre back?
Do you know what? I think the way Rich has described it, he's pretty much a slightly better version of Jamal Lascelles, really, isn't he? He's just like, but an international version of him. Do you know, like this, like Richard just said, on his day, he's a great game. Like Lascelles had a decent game of the night, but he's had that many mistakes this season that tend to lead to goals as well. So, you know, on his day, Mings can actually be a really solid centre-back. Eddie Howe knows him quite well from his time at Bournemouth, so it'd be nice to see, obviously, how, you know, he's going to use, say, possibly Chris Wood or any of the other forward three up there, because obviously he'll know what Mings' weaknesses are as well. So it'll be, I think with, obviously, someone that we'll talk about in a little bit more in depth later, Konsa being suspended, I think he's probably the slightly better of the two in the partnership as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he partners whoever comes in to replace him as well. Because obviously, yes, he's the captain, but it's like Lascelles again. He's the captain, but he's not the best player in that position at the club at the minute.
Yeah, and let's segue onto that now. That's nice. He's brought us into the next section. I mean, look, I don't know what you were thinking, Rich, whilst watching this game, but when this happened, I was firstly elated at the fact that he was going to miss the game, but thinking it was absolute stupidity. But, like, you know, how big is Konsa a miss to your sort of Villa backline? And as Richie said, you know, would you suggest that Konsa is the better of the two centre-backs?
He's definitely the better of the two centre-backs in terms of, you know, ability to defend, carrying the ball out, reading the game. He's not a leader, like, in terms of Mings, though. He's not gonna. With Konsa, he tends to be a bit more wise after the event rather than proactive to stop the event. Like, he's always having to go at someone after the goal's gone in, and that kind of annoys me a little bit about him. And that potentially is why he hasn't been called up to the England squad yet, because a lot of Villa fans have been crying out for him to go in the England squad. Yeah. But he is a Rolls-Royce type defender. You know, he glides past people, he'll read the game, and he'll, you know, nip in front of someone. But that yesterday was just, he's got that little bit of petulance in him as well. And as I said, you know, he can sort of have a go at people after they've made a mistake, or you know, be a little bit petulant like that. And it was just silly. And he misses 2 games, actually. He doesn't miss just the 1 game. He's missing 2 because of totting up bookings, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
He's on 10
potentially. I just know that he's missing 2 games. It might be his second sending off of the season. I'm not too sure. But yeah, he's missing. We've got you guys, and then we've got Watford, so he's missing both those games. Now, who comes in? We've signed Calum Chambers on a free. So he's potentially that right-sided understudy at centre-back, and then Courtney Hawes is usually the understudy to Tyrone Mings.
Okay.
Depending on who, you've obviously got Chris Wood up front, so it might be that he goes for Courtney Hawes, who is very, very, very strong in the air. So he could potentially go for Courtney Hawes at the back, but then you've got two left-sided centre backs at the back. So, but as I say, Hawes is very, very good at the physical type forward. So I could potentially see him coming in as opposed to Calum Chambers.
Just to back up what Joy Tune for Life there said for you, it is his second red card of the season. He was sent off in the home game where you lost 4-1 to West Ham.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. So, look, you've talked about him already. Calum Chambers has come in. You mentioned it was a free from Arsenal.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, I didn't realise it was a free. But
I think they agreed to something. He could have gone for free at the end of the season, but I think they agreed to terminate it early or something, so he could move now.
Okay. Yeah. And what are your thoughts about him moving to Villa Park?
Well, I mean, we had Axel Twanzebe on loan, so we've sort of replaced the backup centre back who we had on loan, who wasn't our player, with a backup centre back for free on a 3.5-year deal. He's still only 27. He hasn't played too many games. I think it was something like 80, just over 80 games for Arsenal in the last 7 years. But he could play right back. He can play right centre back. He can play defensive midfield. He's not a bad player. I don't think he's gonna trouble the first choice centre backs too much. I think that's an area that we'll look to improve in pre-season. But yeah, decent, solid signing, mate. To be honest.
Okay. No,
nothing to get too excited about. Not like a couple of other players that we've signed, but we'll take it.
And that's it. Look, I'm just going to bounce between certain players in different subjects here. The one that I didn't think about until sort of last night when I was thinking about this show, and it just pinged into my head, and I thought, why have I not thought about this player before? Leon Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Bailey signed for mega money, and he was like a blockbuster signing for Villa from Bayer Leverkusen. And he came in, and he had I think it was against against Everton at Villa Park, where he just ran the show, and he looked awesome. And I thought, right, he's arrived now in the Premier League. What is the situation with Leon Bailey? I hope you're going to tell me he's not available Sunday. What do we know? What's going on with Leon Bailey at the moment?
He's just been in and out with injury. Hasn't been able to get any sort of consistency. So you're right. When he came on against Everton, he had that blockbuster debut, or I think he may have played a couple of games before that. But his first goal, and he injured his thigh in that game from scoring that goal, and that forced him out for about a month. And then he came in the team when Gerrard first came in, and then got another injury. But I am pleased to tell you he's back in full training now. So he could possibly be ready for the bench on Sunday. Gerrard said he wasn't fit enough for last night, but it potentially on the bench for Sunday, if not the following week against Watford, I imagine. But yeah, he just hasn't played enough games. He just hasn't been fit enough. So when he comes in, he's obviously going to be an option. Now, whether he gets in those number 10 positions is a difficult one to answer, or whether he goes through the middle and looks to get in behind the teams. I'm not too sure, but that was one thing that concerned me yesterday, is we didn't really have anyone off the bench other than Danny Ings, and Danny Ings didn't actually come on. But obviously to have someone like Leon Bailey to bring on off the bench is a big weapon. So we definitely need him back.
Yeah, it's always the same, Richie. Sorry. I told you I was going to get confused. It's always the same thing, that players always seem to get fit just in time to play Newcastle. And but look, Leon Bailey,
do you know what, Pete? It's funny you should think. I was thinking exactly the same when we played Everton the other night. You know, you had Dele Alli, you had Van der Beek on the bench, and you had Calvert-Lewin. Yeah. But luckily, Calvert-Lewin didn't get on because they had 2 injuries beforehand, and the other two were just so lacking of match fitness. They were useless against us, so it worked in our favour. So hopefully, if Bailey is on the bench, he's lacking match fitness, and he can play like Dele Alli and Van der Beek did the other night if he does come on.
Yeah, look, let's look. I'm just going to bounce from topic to topic, but just because I just love talking football in general. But Rich, did you watch the Newcastle Everton game?
Yeah, mate. I'll pretty much watch all Newcastle games. Obviously, you know, as I don't know if viewers know, but I live up in Newcastle, so I know I'd have a lot of affection for Newcastle. So yeah, I watch all the games. I thought you were fantastic, to be honest, in that game. I was a little bit worried for you, like, you know, obviously new manager bounce and all that jazz, and obviously Everton got a great result against Brentford, but they reverted back to how they've been in the Premier League throughout the whole time. But also, to your credit, you were just bang up for it. Like, the closing down was really good. You know, Trippier is just a different class. Like, at the moment for you guys, you were just all over them. And Everton, it was probably a good game for you to play because they're lacking in confidence and they're just so slow. Like, I don't see any pace in the Everton team, and you guys just swarmed them, and it was really good performance, to be honest.
We were buzzing with it because you could tell right from early on that we were up for it. And you know, the only down parts were the fact that it was only in moments where we were kind of reverting back to our old mentality and our old kind of defensive kind of ways of thinking. But there were very few and far between within that 90 minutes, and that's the biggest change from when our previous manager was in charge of the club. But I mean, the reason why I asked if you watch the game is because, and it's not related to any of our two teams, but I could not believe how bad Dele Alli and Van der Beek were when they both came on a sub. You know, both marquee signings for Everton. You know, Dele Alli had a long stint in the game where he could have an opportunity to really affect the game as a new signing. Van der Beek had a little bit less time, but you know, they were just so bad. Like, it actually shocked me. It actually really, really shocked me how bad both of them were. What were your thoughts about those two?
Exactly the same. I mean, you'd hope that it was just a case of, you know, not really settling in yet. You know, coming in from the cold. You'd hope for their sake that it was that. But I mean, Dele Alli's been the shadow of the player he was for the last 2-3 years, which is a real shame, to be honest. I really did like him as a player. Donny van der Beek maybe could come through. He hasn't had the chances at Man United, so maybe he was just a bit rusty. But in general, I do really worry for Everton because, you know, from your guys' point of view, you've kind of, other than say Bruno, you've kind of signed players that have been used to that battle, used to that fight. You know, Chris Wood, Matty Targett, Trippier, you know, knows the English league, knows what it's all about, can step in and are up for the fight. I don't see any Everton players in that team that are that seem up for the battle, other than like an aging Seamus Coleman. Like, I can't see it in their team, so I do really, really worry for Everton, and it's probably not the signings that they needed. Certainly not both of them anyway. Like, for me, they needed defenders and fast defenders because they were just so slow. Like, Maximin was unplayable, don't get me wrong, but just made it so easy for him to run past them. They just let him run by. It was embarrassing, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know, mate. I fear for Dele Alli. I don't think he'll recapture that form that he's had. Donny van der Beek maybe, but I do worry for Everton.
Yeah, I definitely do. Richie, Ali, Van der Beek, you were in the stands. How bad were they up close and personal?
Really, do you know, once they came on it, I think everyone around was always like, oh no, because it felt as though they were strengthening off the bench with the injuries. But to be honest with you, they were just passengers the whole game. They had no influence on it. It felt as there was a little stint in the second half when we just went 2-1 up, and you could see them trying to get into it. And there was like people around us were saying, "Oh, perhaps it's a time for Bruno to come on." It felt as though that needed that refresh, just someone to come in and compose. But we just we just kept on the pressure, and Joe Linton then seemed to find a bit more overdrive in there as well, and then Joe Willock was a bit more legs in there as well, in and around them and putting pressure. And they couldn't cope with the press on them. There was a lot of like little short sideway passes, and it was pedestrian. It was a bit like watching us at our low point, really. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it was nice to see us dominate. A Dutch international, an England international. Yes, okay, lacking match fitness, but they're still quality players on the day. And at the end of the day, you're only as good as the opposition you cover. Yes, they're not good at the minute, but we played better than them. So that's the way I look at it. We didn't let them show their quality as well, if that makes sense. So, it takes... I think there was one through ball that Dele Alli played in the first half, which you can show. It shows what happens when you get, a quality player does get a chance to on the ball occasionally. But I think that was about the only thing he did the whole game. Do you know what I mean? So it was. I think we made them look bad as well. So I think that's, frustrations boiled over at the pitch at the end and stuff like that. And but that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's Premier League. It's competitive. It was a feisty game at the end as well. So we did a job on them. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, to be fair, a lot of the games were quite feisty. The last 2 days. I think maybe the players were desperate to get back into some Premier League football, because it did seem like there's some big challenges in quite a few games, to be honest.
Yeah, and you know what's even more surprising about that is that the referees were allowing play to continue. So there was a lot of like tasty challenges, and referees were just going like, yeah, carry on. Acknowledging it. There was some tasty ones that we were on the receiving end of some of them, noticeably towards the end of the game, Joe Linton and Dele Alli. But I won't go into what happened afterwards. I don't know if you're aware of what happened afterwards, Rich, or apparently what's happened afterwards. But
I did hear a couple of rumours. Yeah. Handbag stuff, I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine so. I'm not like I say, I'm not going to go into any details, but let's say Joe Linton was the one standing at the end. But yeah, we'll move on. But you're right. There were some tasty challenges in your game as well. There was one from Tyrone Mings actually, where he went sliding in, and if he'd have connected with the Leeds player, he'd have got a straight red himself for that, because he was full blooded, and he is that type of player anyway. But
Matty Cash put one in. I think he got a yellow card for it. I think one of the goals that Ramsey scored, I think there was a big late challenge on Douglas Luiz that I think Dallas got a yellow card for. So there was some. That's what you want. I don't want like. As long as people aren't going out to injure people, that's what you want. It's it's a competitive game. That's what you need. Gets the crowd going and everything. Like, look at the atmosphere that you guys had on Tuesday night. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely. That's what fans want. That's what gets a reaction from the fans. A challenge like that. Rich, you were near. It was near the Leazes end a couple of times in the second half, where Lascelles just come across the fans end and just like cleaned him out both times, but fairly on the ball. But it was very much a case of letting him know, like, you ain't getting past me today, and he was bang up for it. And that reaction both times those tackles were made, it was like we'd scored a goal. Like, the roof just came off because it meant so much.
Yeah, it was right in front of where we were sitting as well, both those tackles. But, it's what you want from your captain. It was like that determination, and that's that leadership side of them that, Eddie Howard and the managers have seen in him. He put his body on the line, and, we know he's not the ball playing centre half like Shaw is or Dan Burn can possibly be. And we've said this a few times. He's like your old fashioned centre back sort of thing, sort of. He'll win a header, put it in Rose Ed, or he'll make a hard tackle. And, he'll be mates with Townsend from when they both played together at Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? But both times, both tackles were hard, fair. Townsend didn't make a meal of it. He accepted it was for what it was. And that's how football should be played. Do you know what I mean? There was no reaction. Whereas, as we mentioned before, Dele Alli on the receiving end of some of the ones, like Townsend was off the cells, but he just couldn't take it. He just didn't like it, full stop sort of thing. There was I saw a couple of little ones between Trippier and Ali as well, second half, which luckily, because they were teammates and good mates, there wasn't that backlash between the two of them. So that was really interesting. But yeah, it was a. I think that's what we've always said about Newcastle, though, and with Lascelles and Trippier and our midfield. We've always said we're not bothered about how well we played. We want a team that tries, and that was the first thing that happened. You could see everybody was like, this is where Trippier's been immense for the team since he's come in January. He's led by example. You see him talking to Lascelles all the time and to Fraser. And, he doesn't just talk, he backs it up. And then Lascelles was backing it up on Tuesday night. Fraser was as well. And Fraser spoke so highly of Trippier after the game. And there was that picture going around where they were doing the interview together. And it was find someone who looks at Trippier like Fraser does sort of thing. And it was... it's just, but I think what we've talked about there, full stop, is it seems to be all of a sudden with Newcastle in particular, and I don't know, Rich might be able to touch on this from an Aston Villa point of view, but since Howe's come in and obviously the additions over January, Newcastle feel really united now, and everybody is standing up for each other as well and backing each other up as the instant after the game, allegedly, as well, goes to show that there's a team spirit there as well. Would you say that's something that you find that Gerrard's brought to Villa now? What that Dean Smith didn't have at the start of the season?
Yeah, I definitely in your case, it's like night and day. And obviously, I talked on the last one about we experienced the Steve Bruce years, and you guys have experienced the Steve Bruce years. So Eddie Howe was winning from the start, because anyone comes in after Steve Bruce and it's like God's coming. It's amazing. So he just ruins football clubs. That's what he does. So and obviously you had the Mike Ashley as well, and that just makes it doubly worse. So from a Gerrard point of view, as I said before, he wasn't really coming into a club that was on its knees. He was coming into a club that just needed an extra kick and an extra bit of ruthlessness. So it's a slightly different situation, but I think from a fan base point of view, like me personally, and I think probably about 50% of Villa fans were like, Dean Smith's got to go. We need someone in. We need someone big in. And Steven Gerrard was that man. There was another 50% of Villa fans that didn't want Dean Smith to leave, and they were quite annoyed at the fact that he left. And it took a couple of results and Steven Gerrard being interviewed and the way he talks and all that sort of stuff to say, this is the real deal. This guy's the real deal. So he probably took a little bit of convincing of a few Villa fans, but now, everyone's like Dean who, and it's all about Steven Gerrard. So he has kind of galvanized it, but it was a slightly different situation to you guys in the fact that some of the fans were a little bit more, pining for Dean Smith, but now are like, we're all on board with Gerrard. So yeah, it's two clubs going in the right direction now, which is a big thing.
Yeah, and I have to agree. It's the situations were very different. You alluded to it, Rich, earlier on in the show. Is that we were sitting close to rock bottom within the league. So from our point of view, we're always going to be in a position where, we're desperate to get the manager out, that we're desperate to get rid of him. And the reason being is because we want, we wanted new owners. We wanted a new manager. We don't like Steve Bruce. He's gone to your neck of the woods now, and he'll probably end up ruining that club. He's already started. He's already started because they lost, was it 2-0 last night to Sheffield United? So we just needed him out because, like you said, Steve Bruce ruins clubs. And so, you guys weren't in that position,
Yeah.
For some people in the media, there was a question mark, Dean Smith, was it harsh? But like you said, you've got a born winner there, and you're able to kind of, you've got a manager that is not just a born winner, but he can attract players. And case in point, Philip Coutinho. You asked the question, would he have signed for Aston Villa or anyone else in the Premier League if it wasn't for Steven Gerrard, who he played with at Liverpool? Probably not.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got a huge talent on there. And speaking of Coutinho, Martin's asked the question in the chat. Martin, one of the loaded boys, and he said, how are the Aston Villa, injuries looking. Obviously, from the picture there, you got Coutinho, who doesn't look, too comfortable in that
No.
in that picture there, and he eventually did get subbed off. Obviously it's still early days. It's not even been 24 hours yet. But what was the kind of feeling at the time about his injury? Is it something that could potentially keep him out for the game in just a few days' time?
Nothing's really been said, to be honest. I've not seen anything. Like, usually Twitter's full of, the reports on the injuries at the club, but I think they've had probably have a press conference tomorrow, and that'll be asked. But nothing's been leaked out of the club. When Deer went off with a little bit of a knock, he was potentially a doubt before the game, I think. So he's gone off with a little bit of a knock. I would say that Coutinho was maybe more cramped than anything, maybe more fatigued than anything.
Gerrard did say that, Rich, after the game in his press conference. He said it was more cramp because obviously he's had been away in the World Cup qualifiers, and he hadn't had much game time before. He's still been, hopefully for your benefit, that is the case. Hopefully for us, it's just a bit of gamesmanship by Steven Gerrard. But I suppose we'll see it 2:00 on Sunday on that one.
Exactly. I mean, we need both of them. They're both flying at the moment. But yeah, I think he'll be okay. Obviously, Konsa will definitely be out. Other injuries, like I say, Bailey's back in training. Bertrand Traore should be back from the African Cup of Nations, so he might be in and around the squad. Okay. Other than that, I think we've got a fairly clean bill of health. Someone said that Martinez had a bit of strapping on at the game, the goalkeeper. So I don't know.
He did.
So I don't know whether he's carrying a slight knock, and Douglas Luiz was sort of feeling his back. But I think a lot of it was basically the game was played at such a pace in the first half or first 60 minutes. It was just it was ridiculous. And obviously, you get that when you play against Leeds anyway, because they're just a crazy team. You can't even I've been thinking about this all day. I was thinking, how do you sum up that game? And sometimes you just have to think you're just playing against Leeds, and you just have to take it for what it is, because they're just crazy. So I think a lot of players were just you can do all the training that you want over 2 weeks, but then when you're thrown into a game, it's gonna take its toll. So I think a lot of players are probably just tired. So yeah, in a long way of answering that question, I think we should be all right. I think there's only really Konsa will be out.
Rich, that's not the kind of answer that we wanted.
I'm saying that now. We could be talking one or two players out, but I don't think so. I think they'll be fine.
No, that's fair enough. Look, it's we've got question marks ourselves, because we had both Trippier that came off. He signalled that he needs to come off, and we're hoping that it's cramp. Although I think he had a slight problem with his calf even before he scored the free kick. He'd said he had a little issue with his calf, and then when he slid in, whether he pulled something up or whether he hit cramp again, we don't know. But he came off quite quickly after that. And then obviously Joe Willock came off. He looked frustrated when he came off. He kind of did, this as if he's done something. But he walked off, which was a positive. But again, we don't know what that situation is. Obviously, we've got Bruno on the bench and one or two others that we can use if that's the case. And it may well be the opportunity for us to kind of, rotate the team a little bit, because we've got a position to do that. We didn't have Dan Burn that didn't play. Another player that's not available, that actually is linked to both of us, is Matty Targett. I wanted to get your thoughts on Matty Targett, just really quickly, because from our point of view, we thought he had a really good game. He was really solid, good down the left hand side, just a good experienced Premier League player. Kept things really simple, allowed, with his defensive positioning, allowed Alan Saint-Maximin to go off and do his thing and know that he's got that defensive solidity there. But also for me, and I've noticed it quite early on, particularly in the first half, some of his ability to cross the ball, his crosses were pinpoint. There was one cross that he played in the first half, whipped it right to the back post, or right to Ryan Fraser. Just a fantastic ball. Just that level of quality that we've missed. Richie did you must have seen that in the first half of the Leazes end.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was always looking to try and get Sam Maximum away as well in front of him, and he was trying to get him in behind. But his positional sense was good, and it's actually nice to for the first time in a long time to be able to say we've got two good fullbacks at the club. Both experienced fullbacks in the Premier League. Which, yes, we were looked at other left backs in particular in the window as well. There was like Mitchell Bakker from Leverkusen we were linked with. There was a couple of others. And I know a few people were turning around saying they were a little bit underwhelmed with Matty Targett because he'd been a target under Steve Bruce before and Rafa as well. So they were thinking, is it more of a backward step, side step sort of thing? Because it's a target that had been there years ago. I think that's more towards the Steve Nickson side of things, and I don't think anyone can really question Steve Nickson's recruitment, especially in this window. I think he's done very, very well to get the 5 players that we've got in, especially without having the director of football there to support him as well. But one question that our good friend Shane's put in regards to Targett for Rich, he wants to know, Rich, how much would you be prepared to sell for a permanent deal?
Right. I mean, to be honest, on that, I think I was quite surprised that he did go. I think I was mentioning to you guys before the show, like I was surprised that we signed Luca Dean, and there's a potential that he's not quite the fullback that Gerrard wants. He likes his fullbacks to be really attacking and attack minded, and he's not necessarily that way inclined. So he is quite suited to you guys. You mentioned Pete, he had Grealish in front of him last season, so you could allow Grealish to go and do what he does. He's now got St. Maximin in front of him for you guys, so we can allow St. Maximin to do what he does. Yeah. So I was, as I say, I was a little bit surprised because there would be games where I think you'd need a more solid-minded left back than Luca Dean's in there sometimes. But yes, a very solid signing for you guys. I think you're getting a fullback who's played in a team that's finished 10th or 11th last season and is around that area this season, and he's coming into a team that's fighting for relegation. So from that point of view, you're getting a left back that's going to improve you. So he's definitely going to do that and make you more solid. For a price tag, if he keeps you up, obviously, if he contributes to keeping you up, I think you're probably looking at maybe, I don't know, 13 to 15 million, I would say, something like that. I can't remember what we signed him for, mate. I think it might have been 12 and a bit. So we'd maybe be looking to make a profit out of that. I'd say 15 million plus, I would say, particularly with the money that you guys have got now. It adds a few million onto the price tag, doesn't it? Which is the unfortunate thing when you've got bucket loads of money.
It's that Newcastle tax is what we're looking at.
Exactly.
I think a prime example of that's what you touched on before, Rich, about the Calum Chambers deal with Arsenal. You get him for free with 6 months left on his contract. We go for Lingard from Man United, and it's 12 million plus with 6 months left in his contract. So, prime example.
Exactly. And I said on Barry's podcast, when they were on the transfer deadline, I said, I dare say that if Villa were in for Lingard, I dare say they would have let us have him. But it was only because you guys were after him and West Ham were after him that they were like, no, we're not selling him to West Ham because we're directly competing with them, and we're certainly not selling him to Newcastle because we don't want them in this league next season because they're gonna be a real force. So yeah.
And that was it. That's going to be our problem. But for Richie, just a quick question to you, really. If we do stay in the league, would you take Matty Targett? Obviously, it's hard to judge because he's only had 1 game for us. He's not available on Sunday. But would you take Matty Targett as a signing, or would you, like I suppose many others, think maybe further ahead in terms of a more flamboyant kind of high-profile left back signing instead?
No, not necessarily. I think I'd be happy with Matty Targett. I think I was really, really impressed with the way he played against Everton the other day, and he seemed to have fitted in well. And to be fair, for the sort of money that like Rich has just talked about there, that helps with the FFP as well going forward. And you've got a Premier League experienced left back straight away. So you don't necessarily need to go out and, spend 40, 50 million on a left back, or, someone who's an up and coming full back who has done well in the leagues before, but might be absolutely appalling in the Premier League. It's one of those where you would go for, I would say, sign Matty Targett, then you look to the other weaknesses in the team, perhaps another centre half, which we were looking at too. You want to go to strengthen the midfield again. We desperately need to strengthen the forward sort of front, and we've talked several times where we think now, this is the prime example of trying to go for someone like Darwin Núñez, and then that's probably where you'd look for someone where he'd probably be where we would look to spend the majority of your money in the summer when it comes along. And I think you'd probably need to be fair to say you'd probably need another winger, So I think left back's not really a priority where you'd be wanting to splash the cash at this moment in time. There's also the talk of we supposedly had interest in Dean Henderson, the window for goalkeeper. So for me, with bringing Matty Targett in for the sort of money that Rich is mentioning, I think he's an ideal candidate to be signed on a purpose. To be fair, I was a bit surprised there wasn't the option included in the loan deal. I was a bit surprised it was just a straight 6-month loan.
Yeah, but it's as far as I'm aware, or certainly from what I read around the deadline, they sort of journalists were putting out is that Newcastle did want an option in there, but Villa were adamant that they didn't. So that might signal that Villa actually see him as part of their future, maybe as an alternative, as a switch around to Luca Dean, in terms of building the squad. Because we've talked about from a Newcastle perspective, and I'm sure Rich, you'd be thinking the same from a Villa perspective, is that if you want a big quality, solid squad of players to move yourself forward, you tend to look at 2 players in each position.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's, I think, maybe is the reason Targett is someone, because for all the reasons that Richie's just said, is that he's at a good age, FIFA fair play, it is a perfect type of player to have in a squad, and it's a case of why you think to yourself, why would Villa get rid of someone that would be a perfect squad player for them and bring him in to us? But at this moment in time, he's likely to get more games. Jamal Lewis is not in the squad at the moment. Paul Dummett's currently injured. Talk that Paul Dummett's not negotiating a new contract, or certainly the club are not negotiating with him a new contract. So it might well be that he leaves the club in the summer, which means Matty Targett could potentially come in as number 1 left back. So that maybe then changes the situation. But I want to get onto the game. I want to know 1 or 2 things about Villa, just from my own mental preparations for Sunday's game. But before that, I think it's always good to get a few stats, and there's no better place to get some stats than from our very own 007.
Evening, lads.
Here he is. How you doing, Keith?
How are you doing? Are you all right?
Evening, Keith.
Twice in a week, eh? Let's hope it's 2 wins in a week for Newcastle.
Oh, fingers crossed. Although Rich won't be happy with that, I know for sure. But Keith, welcome in. Always a pleasure to have you. Before we get into some finer details about the game, what are the stats with Villa now? Well, off the top of my head, I know that we've had some big wins against Villa over the years, but give us something positive going to a massive game on Sunday, please.
The overall stats are good, really positive for Newcastle versus Villa, and straight away off the top of my head, you just think of those classic 6-0 wins. There's one, and another one that stands out is a classic 4-3 thriller from the 90s with Dwight Yorke getting a hat-trick. We all remember that one too. Overall, Newcastle's overall Premier League record against Villa, played 49 in the Premier League, 22 wins, 16 draws and 11 defeats. In 49 games, lots of goals for Newcastle as well. 66 goals compared to Villa's 47, and also Newcastle have got a better clean sheet record as well, which surprised me. 17 clean sheets to 13. But I would say about these stats, a lot of those good positive stats are tempered towards the early days of the Premier League, the Keegan days, the Robson days, because the last 5 years or so hasn't been so pleasant when Newcastle have played Villa. Newcastle's last win against Villa was Newcastle 2, Villa 0 from the 16-17 championship season. Goals from Gouffran and Henry Lansbury own goal.
Yeah.
And in the Premier League, the last time Newcastle beat Villa at St James's was a 1-0 win in the 14-15 season with Pape Cisse. And I think, I think I was just thinking that Pardew's still in charge, but he had gone at that stage. I think it was Garvo might have been in charge. So no wins for Newcastle in the last 5 against Villa. 2 draws and 3 defeats. But Newcastle have got a better overall record at St James's. 14 wins, 8 draws, and only 2 defeats. Again, can you remember the Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer fight? 3-0 defeat. That was the last time Villa won at St James's Park in 2005.
Wow.
Chris Wood, his goal scoring record now, we're all willing Chris Wood to get a goal. His record's 1-3, 1-4, and he has a good record against Villa, 4 goals in 7 games. And Eddie Howe's managed. Yeah, absolutely. He's got a good record, especially in the league against them as well, in the Premier League. And Eddie Howe, his managerial record against Villa, managed 5 games, won 2 and lost 3. So quite an even Stevens almost there. He's averaging nearly 2 points a game against Villa. So some quite positive stats there for Newcastle.
I'll be honest, Keith, over the course of the season, they've probably been the most positive stats that we've had going into a game, which I don't know whether to think whether that's a good thing or not. I'm not too sure about that.
They're due a win, Pete, against Villa, seeing as it's been over 5 years since Newcastle. Exactly 5 years since Newcastle beat Villa, so they're due a win.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But I'm sure Rich will be thinking the opposite way. Is that they've not won since 2005?
2005, mate. Honestly, I was gutted you read out those stats, to be honest, because we just have a terrible record at St James's. So, and obviously, like I said before, off the back of your win on Tuesday, this is not shaping up to be a good visit, which I'm very, very apprehensive about. Like I say, but yeah, records are there to be broken, aren't they? So fingers crossed from my point of view.
And looking towards the game on Sunday, what is your favoured formation? How do you see yourselves lining up, and how do you see kind of your team being picked based on who you think may be available for that game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it'll be a sort of straight 4-3-3 with like a tight front 3. Fullbacks bombing on, like I say, and it'll be the same team that played against Leeds on Wednesday, apart from Konsa. I think pressing me, I think he'd probably go for Courtney Hawes just for the physical presence against Chris Wood and the fact that he knows, settled into Villa a lot more than say Calum Chambers has. But equally, I wouldn't be surprised if Chambers starts. But I think he'd go Martinez in goal, Cash at right back, Courtney Hawes, Tyrone Mings, and Luca Dean across the back. Douglas Luiz in front of the back 4, John McGinn and Jacob Ramsey, and then Coutinho, Buendia, and I think Watkins will just about get the start, although he didn't have a great game on Wednesday, so that could possibly be a debate whether Danny Ings comes in for Ollie Watkins, but I think Watkins will just about keep his spot.
How do you assess Watkins' season? So obviously, second season he had a fantastic breakout season for you guys last year. Maybe not hit the heights, or certainly hasn't hit the heights that you did last year. How do you assess his second season at Villa Park?
I think it's exactly that. It's that second season syndrome where teams kind of know a little bit more how he plays, can prepare a little bit more for how he plays. You can never knock his work rate and what he does. And he does, when he's on it, he's a real handful for defenders because he puts them under so much pressure. But then sometimes that willingness to run affects him actually being in the right position to have a shot or to be in the box at the right time. And he's just not really been at that level. And equally, some of his hold-up play hasn't been as good as it was last season. People saying like whether his nose has been pushed a little bit out of joint with Danny Ings coming in, maybe he doesn't feel like he's the number one anymore. And when they've played together, they haven't really hit that. I don't think they've scored in the same game together, so they haven't really got that relationship. So it's been a bit of a, for a lot of the Villa players, it's been a bit of a stop-start season. They've not really been able to get some consistency, and Ollie Watkins is definitely one of those players. But equally, Danny Ings is the same as well. Like, he hasn't really had any consistency either. Like it's not as if you could say, right, well, he should deserve to start over the other. It's like they've both not really hit it. If you could have mold the two strikers together, and you'd have a perfect striker pretty much. But the finishing ability of Danny Ings isn't necessarily matched with the work rate and the putting the pressure in, getting in behind that Ollie Watkins gives. But he wasn't great yesterday, so that could be a spot where Danny Ings comes in. But I think Watkins will just about get a start to sort of put things right.
Yeah, I was going to come to Richie with that because, I was thinking I just had nightmares of the goal that he scored at Villa Park earlier on in the season. That was kind of like sort of on the swivel, on the volley. Fantastic goal, which ended up being the sort of the winning goal of the game. But Richie, are you surprised? Are you surprised that Danny Ings hasn't really been playing? And has been on the bench, because I know he was a striker that a lot of Newcastle fans were really keen on taking from Southampton.
Yeah, he always seems to have a goal against us as well, which I was about to comment on as well before you came. It was Pete, so it was a good timing there. Yeah, he does have a knack for goal, and to be fair, and hats off to it was a fantastic finish down at Villa Park just before half time. I think it sort of switched the game as well, because there didn't really seem to be much going on at the time. It was like a typical 0-0 at the time. There wasn't really any clear cut chance at the time. It was an absolutely fantastic finish. I think he scored on his last visit to St James with Southampton last season, I believe, as well, when we won 2-1. I think it was, or this might be the season before. So yeah, he's a what you'd say is a total old school goal scorer in the centre forward, but since he's went to Villa, he hasn't really hit the ground running. He always showed what he could be when he was at Burnley. He did it in fits and starts at Liverpool, but obviously he was 9 times out of 10 he was injured at Liverpool, and that was probably one of the reasons why he was moved on by Klopp. Even though Klopp did say he really, really rates Danny Ings as a centre forward and as a finisher. So, hopefully, on a personal note, for me, finds his form, just not on Sunday.
Fair enough. That's fair.
Do you know what I think? I think the people I'd be more concerned about of what I've seen of Villa recently, is Ramsey. I've been really, really impressed with Ramsey over the last few weeks. Would you say he's more of is he a front three sort of player, Rich, or would you say more of a midfield, like advanced midfielder? Because he seems to be doing a bit like what Joe Willock did for us at the end of last season. He seems to be coming into the box off on runs and stuff like that. So is he that a similar sort of mold to Willock, or is he more of an advanced sort of player than Willock is?
No, I think you've got the comparison bang on there. He is quite like a Willock of last season. Like, I mean, I was thinking last night, the first 30 minutes, he probably only really touched the ball about 4 or 5 times, but then he just came to life with 2 goals. Just sort of, obviously, the first one was a phenomenal pass from Coutinho, and then the second one, Coutinho set him up again. But he's kind of like that. He'll be on the edge of a game, but then all of a sudden he'll make a 50-yard run with the ball and beat 2 or 3 players, and or or at the moment he seems to be in real goal scoring form, where he's just got that ruthless streak about him. So, he's getting a lot of headlines at the moment, and all credit to him. But yeah, I mean they're worth the weight in gold, aren't they? Goal scoring midfielders, and that's exactly what he's doing at the moment. But yeah, he's more of a sort of advanced number 8 as opposed to the one of those number 10s. Although Gerrard has played him in that position, like he did switch a little bit last night when Coutinho went off and Chukwuemeka came on, who's another phenomenal young player that we've got, by the way. He did push up into that sort of more advanced sort of right forward position. Left forward position, sorry. So he's quite versatile, but yeah, the Willock comparison is pretty much bang on.
Interesting, yeah.
It's funny because the two teams have got, like, you guys, I would say you're in a false position in the table, and you've got that, you've got that kind of bit between your teeth now. But we've both teams, barring say a Philippe Coutinho, haven't got that much of a two dissimilar players. Like Willock can be great on his day, Ramsey can be good on his day. The fullbacks you've got are good and can push forward. Like we've compared Mings to Lascelles, who are kind of quite a similar type of player. There's not a massive difference in the, being brutally honest, there's not a huge difference in the two teams. I say maybe Buendia and Coutinho are absolute top quality players, but other than that, I mean, Watkins isn't great, and there's not a massive difference.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison, because it's like I think the minute you've got the two creative pins of Buendia and Coutinho, since they both come in, and perhaps that's what Eddie Howe sees with Shelvey and Guimaraes when they play. And then obviously we'll have probably someone like Jordan or Willock, and that's around a similar like to either Ramsey, but he tends to like having Douglas Luiz in there as the holder, though, doesn't he? So
yeah,
but
I don't like Luiz. No, I'm not a Luiz fan. Not really? A Luiz fan at all. Nah, he's not for me. He's just too much of a look at me. Like, he's too much of a player that plays for himself, in my opinion, than playing for the team. Like, I see casual passes, I see trying to flick the ball over players' heads, but then I see a great pass that's done, but it's just not consistent enough for me. And part of the reason why you're seeing mistakes from Mings and Konsa is because we haven't got that strong defensive midfielder, which again, every club is wanting a strong defensive midfielder. That's why you've got players like Zouma that are touted around for 50 million quid. It's like they're just so rare to have that strong defensive midfielder type. But Luiz, that's not his main position. I get that, but nah, he's not for me. He's too. He leaves us too open in that midfield area, and he got swarmed by Leeds last night, and that's where you guys could potentially get a lot of joy through that central area, because he's not strong enough.
Interesting. And then if you think about us at this moment in time, that's kind of midfield areas where we look pretty strong at the moment. So that especially if we add in the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, it should be a really, really interesting situation. But I just want to get both Keith and Richie's sort of preferred maybe kind of formations and lineup for Newcastle on Sunday. So Keith, I'll start with you. What would be your ideal formation for the game against Villa on Sunday, and who would you start for that game on Sunday? Would there be many changes?
I mean, as a rule of thumb, I would never really change a winning team. Newcastle in the last two games have played, best of the whole season for me, especially the game the other night. And they were effective in both games. In particular, I've been impressed with Willock in the last few games. Getting stronger in the second half, so he seems to be getting some sort of form back and some of his chances back. So I wouldn't make too many changes. Maybe I would bring in Guimaraes a bit earlier. I think obviously we're a bit stuck with Targett, aren't we? So we can't really play Targett in this game. That's the only obvious and forced change that we could have in this game. So that would be the only enforced change I would make. And defensively, maybe Newcastle, I want them to be more attacking, really. So maybe a wing back system, with 2 wing backs pushing on. But obviously getting the defender, someone in, one of the stronger defenders in to take Targett. Certainly not Cleveland Clark. I wouldn't bring Cleveland Clark back in at the minute. But
He's not in the squad.
He's not in the squad. I'm about to say he's not in the squad.
Yeah, not in the squad.
He's not back.
So that's the only enforced change I would make. And it's hard to drop Joe Linton because I just think he's been playing so well, in that position as well in the midfield. The aggressiveness, I've liked some of his work. So I'd include Joe Linton, but I think the goals are a concern for me, especially with Wilson being out for so long now. I think one of the only options really is to push Willock on and try and get Willock into the form he was in last season. Playing off Wood there, so hopefully bringing Guimaraes in at the midfield will, help push, get the balls quicker up top for Willock to lay, to run into some of the flick-ons by Wood winning the aerial battles up top.
And that kind of worked. It worked a little bit on Tuesday, in that's what was trying to happen. You could see that Willock was trying to play further forward and be that kind of support network to Wood as he was trying to win his flick-ons. His aerial duels were, I'd love to see the stats on that again, but his aerial duels, from what I could see, were very, very good. He was winning a lot in the air against Yerry Mina. And then when Yerry Mina went off, he was then just kind of dominating, really. He was winning everything and holding things up. So, the Courtney Howe's kind of selection that Rich mentioned could be one of those keys to try and stop Wood kind of playing in, but we still don't see enough into his feet. It's all in the air. It's all quite high up. So if we can play into his feet, he is good. I mean, he played a part in the move that set up the Fraser goal. In terms of that, just that little quick, intelligent play, gets the ball under his feet, shifts it, plays it, gets into the box. So he has that ability too. And I don't think we do that enough. But Richie, your lineup for Sunday, would you make many changes?
Sorry. Sorry, Richie. I was confused there.
Sorry.
Well, obviously, we know there's one enforced change, as Keith mentioned, and that's obviously Targett's cupped. He's not allowed to play because he's of his low deal against a parent club. So, you look at, we haven't got Lewis to come in, who was the natural attacking wing fullback. I believe Richie is carrying a knock, so that really takes that away. Dummett's carrying a knock, so if we're going to go play a left back, we are looking at Dan Burn, really. So I suppose that could be like for like. He's played left back, he's played wing back, he's played left centre back. So I think the good thing about that addition is if he does come in, he's one of those players where if Eddie Howe wanted to change the system throughout the game, it's something you could do if you wanted to go 3 at the back or something as well, if he was at left back. So that is something that could work. I think, bar that, I would probably, and it might not be a popular choice, because the way we played as a team on Tuesday, you'd have to stick with the rest of the team, even though I want to see Bruno so much. I know everybody else who's a Newcastle fan wants to see Bruno just as much. His 6-minute cameo that he had the other day, he was just immense for that 6 minutes. That little back heel you saw in the corner, and the chances. I think he had 6 touches, and they were all meaningful touches. If that picture like that Martin put in our WhatsApp chat the other day, but I think the only way that I think, I think you touched on it before, Pete, is Willock might be carrying a little bit something. If that's the case, then it's a straight swap. Bruno comes straight into me, and I would probably then play Joe Linton perhaps a little bit further forward, like behind Wood or something like that. Possibly play it more of like a 4-2-3-1 sort of stuff, where you'd have Shelvey and Bruno just in front of the back 4, then obviously let Joe Linton play behind, then obviously Fraser and Maxi on each flank. that's probably the only things I would do. You know, if Willock is fit, you'd have to keep him because he's had 2 fantastic games against Leeds and Everton. And as Eddie Howe said, he's not just going to put someone in the team for the sake of it. You know, you've got to earn your shirt and stuff like that. And at the moment, the team's earning the shirts, the starting lineup. So it's, yes, we all want to see Bruno, and you know, there will be a time when he comes into the team. Shelby will probably pick up a needless red card at some point, and that'll probably make Bruno like a mainstay for the rest of the season after that. But you know, I'd say I don't really think you can change the team, a winning team, really, apart from the enforced change.
No, I have to agree. I think it's going to be an interesting one if Trippier's not fit, because obviously Targett's not there. So we've got Manquillo will come in more likely on the right, and then it'll be a case of just, is Dan Burn fit enough to play on the left? We know he can play left back. It'll be a natural manoeuvre. You made a good point about Bruno. I think once he gets his start, I don't think he comes out of the team again, because I think his performances will be so good that he'll just be one of the first names on the team sheet. Like you said, he had 6 touches, all meaningful. What I loved about it is every touch that he had, or certainly every pass that he made, was a forward pass, and that was one of the things that I talked about with him coming in. Is that he's a forward-thinking player. He likes to get the ball forward. He likes to knock the ball into where areas where he can really hurt the opposition, and the ball into St. Maximin where he ran onto it, you know, and worked his way into the box was just a perfectly weighted pass. That's what we need. We know that Shelby can do it, but having someone like Bruno alongside him, where you've got that little spark, that control of the ball, the little creativity, just makes things so much better.
I think the only other thing you could possibly do from it is sort of as a tactical aspect is Bruno's been away with Brazil with Coutinho as well, so they'll have been doing a lot of stuff in training and stuff like that. So, you know, Eddie Howe might look at it and think, well, he's seen a lot of him in training, how he's been working, you know, how he, you know, in drills, how he passes and moves. He might see him as someone who can naturally break down Coutinho's influence on the game. So that is something that he might, from a tactical aspect, think Bruno's better fit for this game. So, but I suppose we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Definitely. Before I get any predictions, I think we've got a few questions, haven't we, Rich?
We've got quite a few, yeah. Let's have a look. I'll start with a couple that where was it that Life Goals mentioned earlier on. But it was more about Villa's injuries and stuff like that. So Life Goals, we touched on that at the very start of the show. So have a rewind, have a look at the little answer all those there for you. He also wanted to know though, Rich, would you consider switching sides? Come on, the Geordie passion must have hit you by now since you lived in the northeast.
Come on, Rich.
No chance. No chance. As much as like I say, I've got a lot of affection for Newcastle. You can never change your team, and luckily I've got a Geordie Villa fan in my son, so he's going to have a hard time at school when when all the kids at his high school are going to be Newcastle fans, and he's holding the fort as a Villa fan. So yeah, can't change the team, I'm afraid.
No, fair play. Just to add to that, I'm going to just jump ahead of you because there's one in here that I was going to ask in response. You might have been about to ask the same, Rich.
Go on then. Yeah.
Geordie, does Gabby know that you live here? Obviously referring to Gabby Agbono.
No, I don't think he does, to be fair. I don't think he does. Although there is a few Villa fans up here, you know. So they're usually Villa fans that come up to Newcastle for the game, met a girl after the game, and then just stayed in Newcastle. That's usually what happens. I met mine in Magaluf, so yeah, that's another story. But yeah, no, I don't think he does know I live up here. But I was equally as annoyed with his comments as a lot of Geordies. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't leave here now. Like, it's amazing city. So I'm sure the Geordies can show him a good time when he comes up on Sunday.
I don't know if he'll be coming up to Newcastle anytime soon.
He's put on Twitter. He's up. He's up here. Yeah.
That
Oh,
could be
yeah.
like a hoax, though. That could be like a hoax, like what Mike Ashley used to do. I'm coming to the game. No, I'm not coming. I'm not here, and everybody's looking for him.
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
think he could. I think he doesn't mind the banter. I think he does it on purpose, doesn't he? So he
yeah,
just wants the Geordies to show him a good time.
if he does come up, fair play to him, because it'd be easier not to and just kind of watch it on the box. But fair play to him if he comes up. But do you think it's just because obviously he played pretty much his whole career I think he did. He played his whole career at Aston Villa, and it's maybe that he just doesn't understand. Rich, you've lived here in Newcastle, like you've lived in Newcastle, you know the city, so you understand from a different perspective. From Gabriel Bonahall, always lived in Birmingham, Villa fan, grew up supporting the club, played for the club his whole career. Is it just the fact that he just doesn't understand that things are different up in Newcastle?
Yeah, I just think it's probably a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's also a little bit like lazy in terms of like old attitudes of what Newcastle's like as a city. I mean, for me, it's one of the best cities in the country. It's the party city. It's got lots of modern like buildings, lots of businesses are up here now, and as well as having that tradition, and it's got like, without trying to sell it as a tourist attraction, it's got everything that you need. So everything like here, coastal places, like places to go for walks, great city, like I say, fantastic night out. So I just think it's a little bit like people just see like the north or in the northeast in particular as just somewhere like out on the arse end of nowhere, and like don't realize what a fantastic city it is. And it's probably just one of those little bit of a lazy throwaway comments, like, why would you want to go to Newcastle? Why would you want to go and sign up for Newcastle when you can stay in Birmingham or you can be in London? It's kind of one of those where if people actually took the time to come up to this city and see what it's actually like, they would see that it's as modern as Birmingham, it's as modern as Leeds, it's as modern as as London is. It's a great city.
I think a lot of people have actually got to look at it like how Kieran Trippier has and take a challenge, and he knew what Newcastle was like a little bit because he'd played here with Spurs, and I think you need to have a lot more professionals look at it like that, because you do get a lot of lazy reporting of, a lot of, like, especially you say pundits from down south and stuff like that. And but even he, as I said earlier on in the show, he was amazed by how the atmosphere and how it was on Tuesday night. And I'm not being funny. If you look at, we really got off on the fact that our first home game, it was against Van der Beek and Dele Alli, both who knocked Newcastle back because they didn't want to be in a relegation fight, and they're both in a relegation fight now with against us. And at the minute, like, we look as though we're going to overtake them, and they're going down and we're going up. So I think people have stopped going to be lazy, just thinking that someone from Liverpool, London wants to come to the North. It's a 45-minute flight. If these lads have got loads of money.
Just about to say exactly the same thing. It's not as if like, do you know what I think hurt the reputation was when there was the comments from Jermaine Genius when he said it's like a goldfish bowl and the pressure and all that sort of stuff. And I think that was like, that's probably gone in minds of a lot of like players of this generation, and and I think that's kind of hurt the reputation a little bit. Not that you should be that bothered. If players don't want to come to Newcastle, then they don't want to come to Newcastle. Like, it is what it is.
Do you know what I think? What players, if they're in that sort of vicinity of down south, Jermaine Genius isn't a person you should really listen to for a point of view of Newcastle, because he didn't have the greatest career at Newcastle. You should be looking at people like David Ginola, who came over for France, absolutely loves the air. Warren Barton, Les Ferdinand. These are well-established names who became icons at our club, and we absolutely love them. You can include Rob Lee in that as well. That's the sort of players that people from down south need to listen to, not Jermaine Genius. Do you know what I mean? On that one. Yeah. Next question, anyway. I've got one from Brian Johnson, and he wants to know, do you want Klopp to stay at Liverpool? Because we all know what's going to happen when he does leave.
I think I've answered it like this question quite a few times. I don't think Klopp's going to leave anytime soon. And if and when he does, and Gerrard is the next taxi on the rank, then it would be because he's done a great job at Aston Villa. So I'll take that. I'll take that all day. And most managers only last at a club for what, 2.5, 3 years. So, you know, if we get Gerrard for 3 years and he gets us into the Europa League or whatever, then I'll take that. I'll take that all day and say, you know, off you go to Liverpool.
Definitely. I from a personal point of view, I can really, you know, if stroke when Newcastle stay in the league this season, I can really see Newcastle and Aston Villa being those next teams. Those are the, like, you know, outside of that traditional. I say traditional, the second version of the top six.
You mean like along with like Leicester's, West Ham sort of stuff? It's like
yeah, but I see us going beyond that.
I do as well.
And I don't know whether you guys agree with this, is that I've always had the mindset that, you know, West Ham are having a great season or a great couple of years, but I don't see it being long term, personally. I think a lot of their players are having good moments. Some of their players were players where they were having their worst moments were still at the club. There's only really Bowen and maybe one or two others that actually are new to the team that are improving it. I think if they lose Declan Rice in the summer, I think that'd be a massive hit to them. I don't see them being there long term. I think, you know, with all the talk that Tielemans is going to get sold in the summer because he wants out and he's not signed a new deal, I see Leicester dropping off, because where Leicester benefited off the back of winning the Premier League, they were able to have the money to go and buy some of the top young talent. But we're now here, and so are Aston Villa. And we've both got the money to be able to go and buy those players. So they're now in competition with us. And they are not going to break their wage bill or their wage structure in order to buy these players now. So I think that then drops them down the pecking order. You've got Arsenal and Tottenham that fluctuate from season to season. So I think we then join, as both clubs, that next group of teams. So I think it's a case of us, you know, being sort of excited at the fact that, you know, for the next few years, Eddie Howe and Steven Gerrard could quite easily be going up against each other, fighting for Europa League places, cups eventually from the seasons moving forward. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, two hungry managers with a point to prove as well, especially Gerrard as well. When you look at the job he did at Rangers, coming down to the Premier League, he's just all business and he's very impressive. And I would say Villa in their recruitment as well has been, that was the only one which topped Newcastle for me in this last window. And in the last season, since Villa just stayed up the season before, I've just been impressed with how Villa have just gradually built up into the mid-table side, pushing on really.
Yeah. I agree, definitely. Right, I know we haven't got Rich for too much longer, so if let's see if we can.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this comment before we went into the, because I thought it was fantastic. We were talking about Gabby a little bit earlier, and we also touched on Bruno having 6 fantastic touches the other day. Well, we also saw the thing about 6 touches Gabby the other day on Sky Sports, which, as Geordie Tune for Life, I think it was mentioned a little bit earlier on. Got to remember, it was also 2 kickoffs as well, and that 6 touches in that game. So you've always got that look on his face on Sunday if anyone sees him in and around the ground. So there you go, Pete.
Brilliant, perfect. Let's see if we can get a couple of quick fire questions in just before we let Rich go.
Oh, let's have a look. It's not on top on Villa though, but we'll. What do you think about Steve Bruce obviously going to West Brom?
I just think it's laughable. Like, you know, he was all in the press about like how it was so bad for his mental health, how he didn't feel like he could get back into management anymore, and all this sort of stuff. And then as soon as one club comes knocking after a couple of months, he's back in the game. Like he loves the coin, doesn't he? He loves the money. So look. Good luck to him in that sense, but stop trying to fob the club off, like particularly in Newcastle, and slag off their fans about how bad they were treating him at the end and stuff. And then, you know, as soon as the next club comes flirting back to him, he just jumps in at the first chance. It just sums the guy up. Like, I've got no, you know, I don't know the guy. I don't wish him any ill will, but I just think it stinks like of him being like an old school type football manager who kind of got all the old boys in the press on side and they never ever say anything bad about him. And he just, like I said before, he just ruins football clubs. So yeah, that's all I got to say about him.
I've got one off Raji Gaji here. And he said it's a little bit off topic because obviously we went to the Villa questions before. Just wanted to know all of our thoughts pretty much on Kurt Zouma. It was a bit of a. I know everyone knows what's been going on about it, but about the fact that actually West Ham actually played him, and then they've decided that he's not going to be in the squad for this Sunday. What did everyone made of that?
I just obviously, it's a horrible situation. I can't believe like that he didn't think that it was ever going to come out. That Kurt Zouma situation. If you're treating animals like that and you're allowing someone to film it, that is always going to come out. So why he even thought about doing that in the first place, I have no idea. I just think it's an absolutely baffling situation. What's even more of a baffling situation is the fact that he played in midweek. Yeah. I cannot believe it. Whatever West Ham do now, they've said that he's I don't know, been removed from the squad or whatever they've decided to do is a load of rubbish. If you really cared about that situation and what he did, he would never have played midweek. He would have never have played. That says everything. And that's, I think, if I'm right in thinking, Vitality have dropped their sponsorship with West Ham on the back of it, which I think is what's prompted them to remove him from the squad.
Absolutely.
Not because they disagree with what he did, because for me, I don't think they care. I just think they care about the player and football. On top of that, he's now been dropped from Adidas as a sponsor, which is going to hit him massively financially. So he hasn't thought about the situation. Yeah. And it also tells you a little bit about the individual as well. If they're willing to do that to an animal, it tells you a little bit about the person.
Yeah, I think it just shows how. I think it just highlights so many things about society these days. Like players or people that in these positions that think they can get away with like just anything that they want and think that they're above anything. People with the audacity to video something like that and think it's funny. The club, like you said, Pete, to play him, to not even think about like the consequences and just to completely, if we talk about PR moves, just to get that completely wrong. And it shouldn't even be a PR move. It should just be like, look, that's wrong. You need to take a period to reflect on what you've done and think about it. And this is a serious issue. But then it's like, once these sponsors see something like that, and we've got like a mob mentality now, obviously Twitter's basically like the mob, and that's what it is. And once you kind of see the level of, public opinion, it's like, oh, sponsors started leaving. It's like, oh shit, we've got this wrong. Like forget the morals. It's like, it's all just about money now, and it's about how it looks. And that's all part of the problem with the whole situation. It's everything about like the moral side of it, the player, the club, the sponsors. It's all, there's no morals to it. It's all about, well, how does it look in terms of our image, rather than what is actually right and wrong here. And the right and wrong was a terrible act, and it should have just been dealt with straight away. And he should never have played. And this reaction wouldn't have happened if they'd have dealt with it in the right way, rather than in a way of like, it's about money and reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. They've sort of compounded the situation. I think, West Ham yesterday by choosing to include him in the squad and play him. If they'd just took them out and just for a period and put it to one side and managed it internally, just to try and deal with it and saying, look, you need to lay low here and try and handle it as a unified club, but they didn't, and they made a bad decision there, and it's just compounded things, and they're suffering the reaction. That sort of feels like they're climbing down a bit now, but it's a bit too late.
Yeah. I'd be interested just to finish off on that point, because I've got one quick last question for Rich before he goes, because it came in after I said last question, but it's a really good question. But just finishing up on that, I'd be interested to see whether West Ham played Zouma because of injuries and see if anybody's actually fit back on Sunday. Because it is weird to put him in on that game and then to drop him afterwards. There was a little bit of a hint saying it was possibly due to human resources and disciplinary procedures there, because football clubs are businesses as well, that you have to allow time to do it properly so the employee can't then go back, sort of thing. So it's a really great one on that one, but I think we could all agree it was an abominable act and he shouldn't have been on the pitch on Tuesday night. But anyway, last question before we get your predictions, because it is a really, really good question. And Life Goals wants to know, if all players are fit, what would your combined Aston Villa and Newcastle United team be?
Oh, good one. Good one.
That's a cracking question.
Okay. I'd have Martinez in goal. I'd have Trippier right back. I'd have Luca Dean left back. I mean, is Konsa available for this game, or is it who is available?
Everybody's fit. Everybody's fit, so you've got a full squad to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have. I think I'd just about have Konsa and Mings. I think it's still got a better centre back partnership than you guys. Midfield, Bruno. Without knowing too much about him, but like reputation wise, Bruno, probably McGinn and Ramsey. Then I'd probably have Coutinho, St. Maximin. I don't even know with the striker because I don't know.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah. I forgot about him. Yeah, that'll probably be my team.
It's not a bad selection, that mind, Rich. I'm gonna admit.
No,
Yeah.
not bad at all. I'll be honest. I'll probably go with that. If I'm honest, Jeff said that I'm smirking again. I smirked because as soon as you said Bruno, Rich, he just brings a smile to my face. I've only seen him have 6 touches for the club, but I already love him already. It's madness. But look, before I let you go, give us your prediction of what you think it's going to be by say 4:00 on Sunday afternoon.
I am going to be more confident. I'm going to say 2-1 Villa. I've got to back my team. I've got to back them.
Yeah, I know. Completely understand that. Keith, your prediction for the game on Sunday? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to keep on going with type. I think I'm going to keep going with form, and I'm going to go another 1-1 because literally I predicted that the last game on Sunday, and look how it turned out. And to be honest, the last couple of seasons where we've played Villa at St James's have finished 1-1.
Yeah, there have been a few tight games in there. Richie, do you think there's going to be 3 back-to-back wins, or do you think Villa are going to spoil the party a little bit on Sunday?
No, I believe it could actually be 3 back-to-back. I think it'll be a closer game than what the Everton one was, but I think we'll probably nick it the other way compared to what Richard. I think it'll be 2-1 at Newcastle.
Yeah, and I think the same. I think it's going to be a good game. I think there'll be some good football in there. Be a tighter game, like Richie said, and I would go 2-1 as well. It's going to be a really, really interesting one. Just before we go, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button on the march to 3K subscribers. So if you haven't already, click that button. And if you want to become a Loaded member, here's the button and here's the screen. Click that blue button and come and join the Loaded membership team. As always, we've got some fantastic sponsors here. We've got Shy Burns. Their outfits and their hats and their kind of different things that you can buy on their site are absolutely spot on. And Simon's a great supporter of Loaded, so it's a pleasure to have him join the team. And as well, we've got Black and White Army as well with Bromwyn. Come and join Black and White Army with all the different gear that's available, and some coming in a new range very, very soon. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Rich, thank you for your time. A little bit over
no problem at all, lads.
than expected, but you know what? Just a fantastic chat that just kind of flowed really nicely. Look, hopefully, you know, you have a fantastic season after Sunday, and you go from strength
You boys
to strength.
too as well. You boys too.
And you know what? Just before you go, it's been fantastic to have you on both fixtures for the away days. Obviously new to Loaded this season, but massively appreciate your support and coming on and chatting all things Newcastle and Villa.
Not at all, lads. I will catch you soon. And anytime, lads, anytime, I'll happy to jump on the channel.
No problem.
Cheers, Rich. Much appreciated, mate.
All right. Thanks,
for
everyone.
everyone
See you
else,
soon.
you take care, mate.
Right,
For everyone else, we are back with a Loaded Mag tomorrow night. So plenty more to talk about with regard to the Villa game, and all the boys will be back in to talk more things Newcastle United. Yes, we are back. Massive thanks to Keith joining 00 Stato with all his stats. Always a pleasure to have you part of the Away Days team. And for everyone in the chat, thank you for your support. And we always do love playing away. You guys take care. Speak to you soon.